Well, hello everyone and happy Wednesday. It is digital host AJ Wuest welcoming you all back to Before the Four, where I take you through 48's top news stories and then some before our 4 p.m. newscast, which throughout NBC's coverage of the Paris Summer Olympics will be live streamed right here where you're watching right now, whether it's Facebook Live, YouTube Live, or the 48 Now live stream page on our website. So wherever you're watching Before the Four right now, just make sure to stick around for our 4 p.m. show as well. We will start up another live stream shortly after Before the Four ends today. And of course, just a general reminder, our 5, 6, and 10 o'clock shows later on tonight will be aired on television as usual. But anyway, I have some news, both local news and national news today, as well as a few awesome 48 Now interviews I've done recently. We also have the stories you're just not going to want to miss in tonight's evening newscast. And of course, ending things today with a little Facebook fun. And if you're returning to Before the Four, you already know what Facebook fun is. If you're new, just make sure you stick around and find out. But thank you so much for tuning in today. And without further ado, let us now jump into today's Before the Four. And of course, starting things off in Boaz, a man is now in custody after a stabbing incident this morning in Boaz. According to the police department, the incident happened around 9:55 this morning on Bourbon Street when officers found a victim lying on the ground with several severe cut-type injuries. Now, the suspect was identified by the victim to responding officers on scene. The victim was airlifted to Marshall Medical Center South. The Boaz Police Department officers notified schools and hospitals in the surrounding areas to be placed on lockdown, including Steed Snake Community College, which was another story that broke on our website earlier today. They placed those surrounding areas on lockdown as they continued their search for the suspect. Now, officers found the suspect hiding behind a home on William Street. The suspect has now been identified as 23-year-old Donnie Nennis, who you see on screen right now. He is from Boaz. He was booked into the Boaz City Jail. And now in Huntsville, 48's Daquan Lee will be following up on a shooting on Hobbs Island Road last Sunday that left one man dead. Now, we spoke with HIMSI spokesperson Don Webster on Sunday, who told us the shooting happened around 9:45 in the morning and a man was left in critical condition. Now, the man, who was later identified as Kirk Urban, was transported to Huntsville Hospital, where police say he later died from his injuries. So make sure you stick around for the latest from Daquan on this situation coming up at 4. And also in Huntsville, where a person was killed in a 2-car crash today on Highway 72 eastbound near Shields Road this morning. Don Webster told us the wreck involved a truck and another vehicle. The other vehicle was pinned under the truck, Webster said. Now, the identity of the victim is unknown at this time. The crash, which snarled traffic along I-5, 75, and 72, happened this morning around 11:30. And now a story in case you missed it. Yesterday, a former UAH professor was denied parole for capital murder of his wife. 48's Callie Neese with the latest.
I personally view Andrew as a threat to society. He committed a very horrible and heinous crime, and after he murdered my mother, he tried to get away with it.
Alexandra Zakin doesn't respect or recognize the man she once called her stepfather. Andrew Pacomov murdered his wife Yelena Zakin, strangling her and dumping her body into the Tennessee River, weighed down by rocks. Now that he's up for parole 15 years into his prison sentence, Alexandra is forced to revisit the trauma facing the parole board.
I'm glad that I was prepared, but it's very emotional. I was shaking. I had a prior to going into the room in front of the parole board, I had to step away, take some breathers, and just try to center myself and focus on the task at hand.
And she'll relive the process again in 5 years.
Hopefully every 5 years. That's the hope. Every 5 years until he serves out his term. He has 30 more years of his sentence, and I'm happy to be there, and I will be there every single time.
To make sure Pakomov serves every single year of his 45-year sentence. Reporting Indicator, Cali 48 News, on your side.
Well, thank you, Callie. Now another story in case you missed it. Yesterday, a Marshall County teen was found in New Hampshire after he had been reported missing. Family members have spoken out, and 48's Nick Ballinger with the details.
These are photos from a security camera in a Buc-ee's gas station in Kentucky. Here you can see 18-year-old Dominic Lager in the same clothes he was reported wearing the morning he darted out of his home in Grant. He hopped in a car with 19-year-olds Ruben Carruth and Ava Mae Huff, also pictured here with him. The pair picked him up early Sunday morning after forming a friendship online and left willingly.
This was just a mutual, hey, we made friends, we made contacts and developed a relationship online, and they left as friends. So
within 48 hours, Lager, along with his two friends, made it all the way to Laconia, New Hampshire.
That's a large area to cover, and the circumstances of the case were just not what you would normally see.
The circumstances are unusual because he may be 18, but Lager is autistic, and under this specific case, his mother has legal custody over him. That's why these two are now facing interference of custody charges.
Something like this for a mom, you get hurt, it's a pain that there's no way you can tell someone. So when I got the news, I kind of just collapsed and howled.
This whole ordeal has been painful for his mother, Amanda Lager.
Been the hardest thing we've ever lived through.
That's because she was attacked the morning Dominic left. Huff sprayed her with bear mace as she tried to stop him, now leaving her another felony charge.
Stuff is horrible. I was on the ground, I couldn't breathe, because it was the most painful thing we've ever, and my husband still has some tingling today.
Yeah, I still get burned.
Yeah.
Lager hopes this serves as a warning for other parents.
I'm telling you, I don't care. You need to get the kids' passwords. You need to know who they're talking to. You need to limit their time.
As for tonight, the Lagers feel a weight lifted off them.
And we're actually going to eat dinner tonight, and we're going to sleep tonight.
Thank you, Nick. Now, yesterday, Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris announced her running mate as Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. After the pick, 48's Matthew King spoke with local Democrats here in North Alabama their thoughts about the VP pick. Let's take a listen.
He brings something to the ticket to help bring out potential, white voters, Southern white voters. He's a veteran, and so probably pick up some military. And he does have some experience in the House of Representatives for 12 years.
Bernard Simelton is the president of the Alabama NAACP and also a Democratic Party delegate. He says party members have had to quickly scramble from their original ticket after President Biden bowed out of the race. He thinks that Walz's ticket gives Democrats a chance to rally under one message.
We must come together to unite, not only just here in the state of Alabama, but across the country, to show support for the candidate. And that's whether it's a Republican that's running or whether it's a Democrat.
He told me he supports Walz's belief on economic policy, handling of 2020 George Floyd protests, and appeal to white voters as a candidate. That being said, he would still like to know what their long-term plans are.
To me, what's key is who does the person surround themselves with.
Across the aisle, Republicans are calling the move a mistake for Democrats. Congressman Dale Strong, for example, is not a fan of the move, citing foreign policy for reason to be concerned.
Right now, I don't think a football coach is what we need at vice president. I think we need somebody that understands diplomacy. You look at what's going on, if it's in the Indo-Pacific, if it's in Israel, right now we don't have time to be training people. We've got to have people that are able to hit the ground running, negotiate, to get these wars over with.
Well, thank you, Matthew. And staying on the topic of politics, it's just 90 days to go and both parties have their presidential tickets set. As the days whittle down, each side spreading its message, crisscrossing the country, in the same places at the same time. NBC's Tracy Wilkins has details in Washington.
For Vice President Harris, it's decision day. Just hours from now, she's expected to appear for the first time together with her yet-to-be-named running mate here in Philadelphia. The first in a series of key battleground states they'll visit throughout the week. Harris's decision follows a rapid-fire vetting process, with the vice president meeting in person with at least 3 finalists over the weekend. Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, a former astronaut, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, a retired school teacher whose motorcade was spotted returning from a Harris fundraiser in Minneapolis Monday, and Pennsylvania's Governor Josh Shapiro, the state's former attorney general, seen shooting hoops with his son outside their home and acknowledging the many reporters there.
Has the vice president called you tomorrow? Have a great night, okay?
Having a little fun with the speculation, Shapiro posting on social media, the countdown is on in Pennsylvania, 181 days until Groundhog Day. Another contender appears to be out of the mix, with the Transportation Department announcing Secretary Pete Buttigieg will be in Maine today, just as Harris is expected to be on stage with her new running mate. The vice president has been largely out of sight since last week, with the exception of this photo released by the White House Monday, where she joined President Biden in the Situation Room for a briefing on the developments in the Middle East. Former President Trump off the trail Monday, trying to capitalize on the stock market meltdown, blaming Harris for the sharp sell-off and predicting another Great Depression this year.
If Harris wins this election, you will quickly have a Kamala economic crash.
Mr. Trump said the same thing about Joe Biden 4 years ago, but the Dow has gone up by nearly 25% since President Biden took office. The Harris campaign accusing the former president of chaotic, ranting lies, noting during the start of the pandemic, Mr. Trump oversaw some of the worst days in the stock market in history.
Thank you, Tracy. Now, August is culinary month here in Huntsville, and for any of my foodies who are watching right now, my food lovers, including myself, the 12th annual Restaurant Week is coming to town starting August 9th until the 18th. Yesterday, I got the chance to speak with Pam Williams with the Huntsville-Madison County Convention and Visitors Bureau all about Restaurant Week. Let's take a listen to Pam as she previews that delicious annual event. And I don't know about you, but I am certainly a big fan of foods. So can you talk a little bit about Restaurant Week also?
Sure. So Restaurant Week is when we invite any restaurants in the area to offer a special. And it's any special that they design of their own creation. Some will have like a full 4-course with a wine pairing. Some will have a family takeout special. So it's anything that they want to offer. And this year we have over 75 places that are participating.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is certainly a lot of different places.
Yes.
What is the planning process and to get all of those restaurants and different places on board to come together for this week?
So I usually start in April, and we start recruiting the participating restaurants in April and May, and then we start planning all of the promotion in May and June. So it is a big promotion. It is a lot of behind-the-scenes work,
yeah.
But it's worth it every year. Yeah.
Well, certainly sounds like an awesome time to me. We'll definitely have to try out a few places and celebrate Culinary Month and, of course, Restaurant Week accordingly. Now, Mr. Joseph Scott, the co-organizer and Mustang man with the 4th annual Rocket City Octane Show, which will be held at the VBC South Hall this weekend. Now, the Octane Show is, of course, North Alabama's premier indoor car show, and it seems pretty cool. Earlier today, I got the chance to have a great conversation with Mr. Scott about the annual event. Take a listen to a little of how he describes the car community here in North Alabama.
But I like to tell people that there's a couple of things in this world that bring everybody together. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter where you went to school, who you root for, doesn't matter the color of your skin. There's something that brings everybody together to me, and that's music and cars. The car community, you can be standing and talking to a guy that's 80 years old, and he's over here talking to an 18-year-old, that's got his first Mustang, and this 80-year-old grandpa is telling stories about his first Mustang. And it just brings the community together, you know. We don't have to worry about politics or anything else. It's just have a good time. Everybody's sharing in that same camaraderie of car shows. Whether you've got a car, a truck, a Jeep, a bike. And it also doesn't matter if you're driving a $5,000 starter car. Maybe you've worked all summer to get your first car and you buy a nice little used whatever. My first car was a Volkswagen Scirocco, and I loved that car. It was the first chance of freedom, you know, to drive and to go places. Or it doesn't matter if it's a $180,000 brand new Shelby GT500 or whatever, you know.
Incredible conversation today, and that full 48 Now interview has not quite been published on our website just yet, so you all watching just got a sneak peek. Now the full interview will be published tomorrow, so make sure you all stay tuned to the 48 Now section of our website, WAFF.com. And make sure you all head out to the awesome Rocket City Octane show at the VBC South Hall this weekend. It was an awesome conversation today. He said so many awesome things. There's a little bit for the entire community. Kids under 12 get in free, and you have different events like race car simulators that he was saying that you can do with the entire family. There's entertainment there, special guest Vaughn Hot Rod flying in from Los Angeles. Should be an awesome time, so you're definitely going to want to check that out. Now in a little Huntsville space news, as it is, of course, Rocket City. In case you didn't see it yesterday, the city of Huntsville will soon get its iconic space line back. Now, most cities have skylines, but Huntsville, nah, we got us a space line. I recently caught up with Pat Ammons with the U.S. Space and Rocket Center, and let's take a listen to what she had to say about the project to restore Huntsville's iconic rocket park, Rocket Row, and of course, the space line. Let's take a listen. That was the first step of the return of the space line.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about Rocket Park and the rich history of the park itself?
Well, as I said, these rockets were in place before the Rocket Center opened in March of 1970. And back then, the Saturn V, which is now beautifully displayed in the Davidson Center, was outside too. So if people have a lot of memories of coming and visiting the Saturn V when it was outside. So this is all part of our legacy here in this community, and so many thousands and thousands of men and women in our community worked on these programs. So it's a wonderful tribute to that work, but also it's a history lesson too for how we got to the big beast that took us to the moon and the one that's taken us back. And part of this, once completed, fully completed, will be a memorial wall. That is something the Marshall Retirees Association has done to commemorate those 22,000 plus people in our community who worked on these programs. So that's the next stage of this huge project. It's been an ongoing project for quite a number of years, so getting this far along has just been a really gratifying time.
Some cool stuff coming to the Rocket City, that is for sure. And Pat said when you start seeing those big cranes just off I-565, you know something is up, and that is right. The space line is coming back. I'm super excited about it. I need to give it a visit. Since I moved here to Huntsville, I have not made my way over to the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. Now, of course, I've been there a few times growing up, but I'm due. I really need to go. I feel terrible for not. I've been here, 7 months now, and I still haven't checked it out. So, awesome interview with Pat Ammons there. You can find that on our website, WAFF.com, the 48 Now digital shows section. But now let's talk about the stories you're just not going to want to miss in our evening newscast. And this is a little bit of a breaking news story right here. A Florence man was indicted on 4 capital murder charges stemming from a 2015 shooting. Now this story broke within the last hour, and 48's Aria Pons, who's out in the Shoals, will be covering this story coming up at 4. So you're not going to want to miss that. And other stories you're just not going to want to miss. A nonprofit in Limestone County all set to open a spay and neuter clinic in the area. Of course, Sneed State opening a new career technical center in Gunnersville. And a Shoals butterfly habitat bringing smiles to one senior living center. These are just a few of the stories you're just not going to want to miss in our evening newscast. And like I say it every day, you're also just not going to want to miss the first alert forecast from Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis to see how the weather outside might be shaping up. Now, I teased it earlier, and now it is time for, you guessed it, Facebook fun. Let's pull up today's Facebook question. So, 48 News, our Facebook question of the day was, would you rather be able to fly or be able to breathe underwater? I don't know. That is a very tough one because I think it would be super cool to breathe underwater. Be like in Star Wars. Oh, by the way, Star Wars night's coming to Huntsville City FC, but anyway, next weekend. But I think it would be super cool, like in Star Wars in Naboo, when they're swimming underwater there and just seeing all the different things, the underwater city of Naboo. I think that would be super cool to breathe underwater. But also flying, I would never need a vehicle again. Like I could just fly to places. So that is a tough one. Let's see what you all had to say. Lee said, eat pizza without gaining weight. Lee, that didn't really answer the question, but I agree with you. That would be incredible if you could eat pizza and not gain any weight. That is a superpower within itself. I think if I was given the option between the three, being able to fly or being able to breathe underwater or being able to eat pizza without gaining weight, I would choose the latter because that would be awesome. Lee, thank you so much for commenting. Let's see who else. James said, breathe underwater and at any depth. That would be awesome. I agree. That would be super, super awesome. James, thank you so much for commenting. And Lynn, she has a response for us. She said, fly. Her hubby built this Super Cub back in the early 80s. She flew out of Moontown Airport in Gurley. Had a hangar there too. When I was 6 months pregnant with our third child, Fred took us up and made me fly the plane, and then he told me to hold on. He did 2 loops. Whee! Those were the days, my friend. Wow, awesome. Lynn, thank you so much for commenting and sharing that with us. That is super awesome, and that's an awesome looking plane. That's that vintage picture there, but that's awesome. Thank you so much for commenting, Lynn. But that just about does it for today's Before the 4. Make sure you all stick around for our 4 p.m. newscast, which of course is a webcast. It will be streamed right here on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and the 48 Now live stream page. So don't go anywhere. Wherever you're watching this right now, just stay put because our 4 will be up momentarily. But if you haven't done so already, make sure you download the 48 digital app, the 48 Sports Zone app, and of course the 48 First Alert Weather app. Turn on those push notifications and never miss a breaking story. But anyway, I want to, of course, thank you for watching. You all have a great night.